right, welcome back. Now, I've got four local dailies. I have the People Daily, the Daily Nation, the Star Newspaper, and the Standard to take a look at. Let me take you through the front page of local dailies, which we'll be discussing later on. But just to alert you that already we have got our guest in studio. I have got Wakili Eliud Ngugi, who is already in studio, going to give us his insight on what we think as far as politics are concerned, as well as Daniel Orogo, who is a governance expert and political analyst as well. We are waiting for Dr. Joseph Rotich joining us shortly in studio. But right about now, on the front page of the People Daily, crisis as junior secondary starts. Crisis as junior secondary starts. Public schools lack enough teachers as hiring has not been concluded. Guidelines on uniforms yet to be made public. Parents and told they will pay for meals. And laboratories have not been equipped with 1 day to opening. A crisis there. Election bosses asked me for bribes, says Raila. That were his sentiments yesterday at Jacaranda grounds as the mayor chief wants president to step down, claiming he was denied victory. But Ruto says results set clear roles for winners and losers. How about that? To the second page here, loud and clear, Magoha case exposes ambulance shortage. Like many Kenyans, family of ex-CS experienced delays in getting an emergency car, resorting to private means. Though a booming business for those who own them, a number of Kenyans have found themselves in an urgent need of medical assistance and lost their lives due to an acute shortage of ambulances. Yes, fears of Bomet turning into dry land as rivers shrink. The water levels have dropped so much that sections of the riverbanks have been turned into farms. Worrying trend there. Crisis as junior secondary school learners report to school with no teachers. Institutions have been told to temporarily identify tutors to train the students as TSC finalizes on deployment of 30,000 educators for the same. That is a crisis out there as well. Dawn seeks clarity on TUK charter. Vice Chancellor in a limbo whether order by president meant to institute goes back to polytechnic status. That is as far as that is concerned. And finally, on politics, Raila threatens to expose Chebukati's secret visit. ODM leader now dares the former IBC boss and 2 commissioners to deny or confirm visiting his home. I want to get your view on this, Wakili. First of all, good morning, and not too late to say Happy New Year. We've never met this year.
Happy New Year.
Karibu sana to the show.
Asante sana.
He says that he threatens to expose Chebukati's secret visit to his home. Your take on that?
Well, I think we have a very good narrative when it comes to our politics. And we may not be aware of what really, or who is speaking the truth, or what is really happening, unless the reality is shared with us.
Yes. And
the reason I say so is because the 2022 elections have already passed. Kenyans went, voted peacefully. They turned out. There are those Kenyans who, a third of the Kenyans did not turn up, and a third of them actually voted for Raila Odinga. Yeah. And so it's very important to note that Kenyans expressed their choice when they went out there, but not 100%. We cannot say it was 100%. And so when Honorable Raila Odinga comes out and says that he wants to expose some of the members of the commission that visited him, I believe that was very important. And it is very important for him to actually state this to us and communicate to us that some of these things happened in 2022 during the election. But the other thing that we need to note is that he had the opportunity. He had an opportunity to actually go out and share this information that would have actually helped in the determination of the Supreme Court ruling that also happened last year. And so our constitution is a supreme law. We need to remember that it's a supreme law of this country. We follow our constitution. The constitution provides a dispute resolution mechanism when it comes to election disputes. And so that opportunity was given to anyone who was not happy with the election results. And so for Raila Odinga to come out today and say that, yesterday, and say that he's going to expose, now there is a report that has come out about Raila Odinga having won and probably beaten the current president. These things have already been overtaken by events. They have already been overtaken by time. And it is important for us to actually acknowledge and note what is more important at the moment. I believe the opposition is trying to seek some relevance. But this is not the right way to do it.
This is not the right way to do it.
Yes.
Daniel, good morning.
Good morning.
Your take? This is not the time for the opposition to seek relevance.
Well, I think I've been stating clearly in the panel that we are a democratic country.
Yes.
And by that, we are able to demonstrate our frustration far right sometimes when opportunity arises. I tend to have a different opinion that recently the audit report to the election was released by IBC. And I had the advantage of attending the session and reading through the report. The elections have not been audited enough by independent firm for us to ascertain that these will give credence to IEBC for holding credible, free, fair elections. Until that is done, then we are here until we wait and listen to the audit, complete audit of the elections. That has not been done, and therefore we can't authoritatively say and give an IEBC 100% to its formation. Well, I agree that legal processes have been prosecuted in courts, including the presidential hearing at the Supreme Court. Okay, but we are also forgetting that there is an Agre Michelule-led tribunal that is hearing a petition that was forwarded to hear the cases of 4 IEBC commissioners. And in light of that, His Honorable Raila Odinga is mentioning that one of the commissioners have stand brave on the commission to give her side of view. And this specific, he's talking about Masit, Justice Commissioner Masit. We cannot be punching, from one end and forgetting that the President of the Republic has equally publicly prosecuted this case and said fully enough in public that you see he is willing, and he has been mentioning some of what should be had at the commission. Therefore, whatever Raila is talking about is a rejoinder of what the state is mentioning.
The legal bit of it is over, so whatever is now playing out is now the political.
It's now the political bit of it, and these are politicians. We listen to politicians, but I agree on the other side that the judicial processes that happened, and others are still going on through the tribunal. So I think that is fair enough.
Let me handle these other papers before we get to the main gist of the story. On the front page of the Daily Nation, Kenyans find ways to beat rising cost. Kenyans find ways to beat rising cost. Contrary to President William Ruto's campaign promise to bring down the cost of living, prices of common commodities have soared during the Kenya Kwanza's first 140 days in power, forcing citizens to devise tricks of surviving the hard times. That story is fleshed out there for you on page 6 and 7 here. On the front page, we have got... let me give you figures. Cooking oil has risen by 4.3%, sugar 15.4%, electricity 20.65%, and finally petrol 11.3%. And potatoes 1 kg 41.9% increase from January, going for 33 shillings and 81 cents. All right, on Warpath, Raila alleges visit demand by Chebukati, addressing his supporters at the historical Jacaranda grounds in Embakasi East, Nairobi. ODM leader Raila Odinga said Chebukati was accompanied by former commissioners, that is Professor Abdi Gulie and Boya Molu, calling the revelations a fresh dossier. The former Prime Minister challenged the three to come clean on the purpose of the visit, even as he called for their arrest. Very quickly on the second page, matters education. Teachers fund scarcity in junior high school as that opens. Last week, Machogu, that is a Cabinet CS, Cabinet Secretary of Education, revealed that more than 20,000 schools have been approved to host JSS. The liners will report to primary schools that are grappling with financial, logistical, infrastructural, and staffing challenges, and it might take some time before learning effectively takes shape. All of you gentlemen went through the 844 curriculum, but I think we just need to tackle this one. The moment of truth is finally here. JSS, students are reporting to school. What do you think, Wakili?
Well, we have no classes yet. The PS and the CS have actually communicated and said that the junior secondary will take off in the current schools.
Yes.
The children are in. And this being a new system of education allows us to actually test and see how best to actually change our education system. And so we have nothing much to do, or we can't do much until we see how it turns out once the children report in the junior high school. And so I believe the government is not, one of the things that I appreciate and I understand about the government is that it doesn't just wake up and it's surprised by events. The government plans ahead, and for that to happen, this conversation started a year ago or two, whereby these plans were made. And so I believe the children will be able to start off and will be able to fully implement the CBC system of education.
Daniel, it's finally here, and I think most people say that this is the best gift that people can give the late Magoha. He spearheaded the whole process until now. He's being taken now by the current regime.
Well, I think it's a gift, of course. We have been here. The CBC transition from 844 to CBC has been here for some time. I think that from what I have seen, the reactions of the important stakeholders in the education is that there is multifold of these opinions, divided opinion. While the parents feel, and important expert in education is telling us that I think it's important to have a smooth transition from 844, even as you pioneer, the junior secondary school. Normally, it's quite important to look at transition with a lens of infrastructure preparedness, with a lens of human resource, hiring of teachers, and you've just read there that this is now the uphill task of TSC to employ, I think, 30,000 teachers, new recruits that are going to tackle, that are going to be directly recruited to handle the secondary school. I agree to the extent that we cannot wait for long to see how it works. I think it's important for us to hit the road running and learn to fill the gaps that are still there.
Being something new, other than waiting and thinking that we are really prepared enough. That would take a lot of time, and especially right now that learners need to transition. So mine is, I think let's get it going. The gaps that are filled as this is being pioneered, and learn as the process goes on, other than waiting. Perhaps it's something new that Kenyans are going to grapple with for some time. Let me just take, before I bring in Dr. Raila Chebukati Gulie, Molu came to my house with a list of demands. Of course, he was speaking there. They are calling the revelation a fresh dossier. The former Prime Minister challenged the three to come clean on the purpose of their visit. We'll be taking a look at that shortly. Ruto dismisses protest as sabotage. He was speaking yesterday at the Olentimama grounds in Narok. The president reiterated that the government will not allow the protest called by Mr. Odinga, who he claims denied the election victory, to distract his administration from delivering on his promises to Kenyans. Mr. Odinga has vowed to pile pressure on the president to resign, alleging that a whistleblower in the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission released documents that prove he won the election by more than 2.2 million votes. And finally, cost of living soars in Ruto's 140 days. Prices of household items have gone up by as much as 140%. and 40% since September when the president was sworn in. Daktari, as an economist, landing on your doorstep, literally.
Thank you so much, Oloo. Thank you so much.
Right.
As far as the economy is concerned, Oloo, personally, I'm seeing groundbreaking for the successful economic foundation in this country.
You call this successful?
Let me explain, Oloo. When you talk about the food prices, and His Excellency said that the food prices can only be tackled with homegrown solutions. Homegrown solutions is actually providing the fertilizers, providing the farm inputs in general, and this, providing the fertilizers and the seeds, Oloo, cannot translate into food in 5 months. You know how long it will take to get to, unless you see, there is something that I really don't understand in this country, Oloo. There was this proposal to import food stuffs from outside the country, and then there was the outcry all over the country that this thing should not happen because we still have enough food. Now, in this case, Oloo, when the government is putting up structures of development, structures of bringing about the homegrown solutions, right, like having our own food, it will not take a day or two, it will not take a month, it will take at least 1 year or 8 months to get to that position, Oloo. So, even as much as we have fresh leaders in leadership, Oloo, these are not men of miracles. These are ordinary men like you and me, who also depends on the vagaries of nature. So in this case, the only problem, Oloo, you also overheard, I think what this government has refused to do is cheap approaches to solving problems. What they are actually in for is a lasting solution, providing lasting solutions. Because they are saying now they are importing about 600 million. The loan from outside the country, where it used to be 900. Now they have reduced. What the government has not done is to subsidize the fuel. Which of course it has really, the prices has been soaring all this time long. And you see, when the prices of fuels are high, every other thing is high. So, that is where the problem is.
All right. You put it correctly, but is there an immediate measure for the government to cushion Kenyans on this? 40%.
I think what the government is doing, Oloo,
much as we're waiting for the produce from the farms and what have you.
The only short-lived answer, Oloo, is to do with subsidizing these fuels, just the way the previous government used to do.
Yes.
Putting up money which the government would have actually used for other essential services, now to refund them back to subsidies, which of course, it was in tune of millions of shillings, which of course it was also denying other sectors of our economy, the services. So in this case, that is the only way to subsidize. The government is saying, no, that is a temporary solution. They want to adopt a permanent solution. So, anyway, there is no, without paying, Oloo, we cannot gain. I think these are short-term kind of, the cry that we have. I believe going forward, Oloo, with the kind of measures that are put in place, we are somewhere good in the near future.
You're making it sound so bad on set. Without pain, we are not going to gain it.
Yeah.
40%, most Kenyans' schools are reopening right now. The cost of fuel, cost of household commodities going up by 40% in a span of 5 months. So the government is here and everybody's looking at the government to do something.
But look, Oloo, I think it's not only about the issues to do with that. There are so many issues that have been falling, that are really happening in this country.
Okay.
Talk about the drought, which is actually ravaging. Almost 4.2 million Kenyans are suffering today as we are talking. Okay. Leave alone the prices that we are talking about. And there are so many hardship that we have experienced as a country. And some of these problems, Oloo, are actually, they are natural in nature.
Let me disagree.
Shortly,
Rotich knows, and that's why he's laughing every time we meet in this set, is that I always disagree with some of the proposals Dr. Rotich talked about. Although we had a government that was sworn in, and allow me to be very fair as well, the way he said, and each and every government sworn in is given 100 days, and they pronounce 100 days to come up with measures, one, to caution the citizens of the Republic. One of the big talks that the government have is on economic recovery. And I agree that there are some unforeseen challenges that comes, some natural disasters Daktari keep mentioning in this set, but here we are. This government can't do much more. instead of taking the painful path that Daktari is talking about and is making us fear about, is to embark seriously in austerity measures, okay? Is to demean enough, deal away with over-borrowing, deal away with too much wastage in public offices, too much wasted in institutions. I think that is the quick fix. Because once you're talking about that you give government enough time, some causes are attributed natural disaster, we agree. I followed our president when he attended a session in Dakar, Senegal, which really talked about issues of agriculture and, uplifting the whole continent on matters that deals with food security. And he gave a very important and elaborate, very eloquent discussions in Dakar, Senegal, together with other African leaders, talking about how then would we uplift the standards of this country by making sure that we are not rain-fed dependent agriculture. How then would we deploy technology? How then would we deploy, short-term measures to cushion the citizens of post-COVID-19, economic issues that happened? So I agree in this set that on the other side, we cannot keep punching the government for the failed, promises that were made when they were sworn in. But on the other side, I agree that the door, where does the buck stop with? The buck stop with the executive and the president of the Republic of Kenya to reprimand enough and to read the Riot Act to other members and these leaders to demean enough, deal away with wastage in the public funds. This is a quick fix that we can have even as we look into other measures.
Let me also bring we can excuse the government because you don't have a budget yet. The financial year 2022-2023 is not yet out. Somebody would argue that the current government is still riding on the previous regime's budget. So with this one, we can excuse them.
Actually, it's not even about a matter of the budget and excusing them. The reality is, you and I have been in this country. We know that there's an issue to do with the climate change. The rainfalls have not been there. Number two, the government has been there for 140 days. What, honestly, could they have done? What probably plant would they have actually yielded out of the farms for us to be able to say that we've taken care of this food security issue? And so, in addition to that, we understand about the Russia and Ukraine war that has affected some prices of fuel that have actually been felt all over the world. We are not the only people in this country that are feeling this pain. It is globally an experience whereby everyone is crying about the cost of living that has gone up. And so we need to actually maybe interrogate some more and look at is a CS agriculture, is the president and the whole cabinet really doing anything about the food security for this nation? Not just looking at the government and saying, you promised that in 100 days you're going to have performed these miracles. Yes, they may have been very very hopeful that they would have been able to turn around things, but 140 days, I believe, are not enough for us to actually judge them.
When you look at it, even the president still forming his cabinet, appointments still taking shape, but Kenyans, we'll always look at you and say, you promised us, now you'll do it immediately. All right, very quickly on the front page of the Star newspaper, exposed 1 billion shillings schools bursary scam. 1 billion shillings schools bursary scam. Auditor General's report shows counties disbursed millions to non-existent students and institutions. This is not some good story here now that parents are grappling with the high cost of commodities, even as students are reporting to school today and moving forward. Very quickly, we are not after Raila in election probe, says DCI again. Giving you details shortly. Activist state clash over fresh plans to cut down fig tree in Gitaru to pave way for a construction of a highway. And there was a story last week when there was a vasectomy which was done on a lion at the national park, and now the lion undergoes vasectomy to control births and actually say that it's recuperating at the park pretty well. That is some good news. All right, so let's take a break, and when we come back, I'll take you through the last bit of the Standard newspaper, and then now we jump into the main course of discussion right here on Good Morning Kenya. All right, karibu sana. So on the final newspaper here, The Standard, no let up as Ruto Raila trade words. No let up as Raila Ruto trade words. Azimio leader Raila Odinga yesterday called on the United Nations and the Commonwealth to probe last year's election in the next 2 weeks, while President William Ruto told him to forget any deal making and offered to only discuss development of the nation. The president was in Narok yesterday for the interdenominational prayer CS, use force to flush out the bandits in North Rift. President Ruto ordered the reopening of all schools closed due to insecurity. And the CS, Kithure Kindiki, said that all the schools closed due to banditry will be reopened. How will it pan out? President to address Africa prosecutors, repatriations of proceeds of crime, the role of technology in facilitating transnational organized crime, and trends of illicit financial flows will dominate discussion at the 16th annual meeting of the Africa prosecutors in Mombasa. A big event there. Ruto accuses Raila of pushing selfish agenda to benefit just a few. Of course, he's been talking about the handshake, but he says it's a no-no. Raila to Ruto, accept a defeat. I defeated you in polls, vacate State House. Raila to Ruto, accept I defeated you in polls, vacate State House. Raila says that DCI cannot purport to probe last year's poll debate since it was working for Ruto. Azimio leaders warned Ruto against plans to unilaterally reconstitute the electoral agency. I think I have to stop it at that point, and now let's talk about what is happening. So, gentlemen, let me start with you, Wakili. There is now, we call them the two big boys, now trading in no punches left, literally. If you look at what is happening currently, this is exactly what happened in 2017. After election, President Ruto, back then Deputy President, took off literally campaigns from the word go. Is this a replica of what happened in 2017?
I don't think this is a replica of what happened in 2017. We need to remember that Deputy President, then, the current president,
yes,
then Deputy President, was the Deputy President to a sitting president. And the leader of opposition was still Raila Odinga, Honorable Raila Odinga. And so we cannot compare this to that. What is sad to us, especially for me as an advocate, is that we have, I said earlier, we have the Constitution, which is the supreme law that we should submit to as a nation, as members of this country, citizens of this country. And when we submit to this Constitution, it has procedures on how to actually deal with disputes when it comes to elections. And that opportunity came, and people went, we went to the Supreme Court, and the Azimio members came in a truck with boxes full of evidence, and part of that evidence was not what we are hearing about now. Why didn't they produce what they are telling us now? And then, number two, the Constitution has a provision on removal of a president. There's a provision for assumption of power, then there's a provision under Article 144 on how we can go ahead and remove a president. It was out of this world, for lack of a better word, to hear Honorable Raila Odinga say that he needs the current sitting president to exit State House and to allow him to move into that office. Yet we have a provision under the Constitution. We know the only way to remove a president is through either if he passes on, if we have a bill to remove a president, if Parliament also, we have a procedure that allows for that. And so when we hear that the opposition is trying to say, get out, you did not win, yet we have a constitution that provides this is how to declare a president. And we went through that whole process. Then it's unfortunate to actually hear this kind of exchange of words coming from both sides of, majorly from Azimio side.
Daniel, your take?
Well, I think there is pronouncement that are done at political rallies. Like I said, Wakili equally touched about it, that some of this is a political phase. The legal and the judicial cycle, probably the curtain closed on that. and hence the opening of a political phase of anything about elections. The end of one elections leads to the beginning of another
one
period.
Right.
And that's by it happens. And you mentioned, you're asking, could this be a reminiscent of what we saw in 2017? Even on 2013? Yes, there is a resemblance of that. Because you remember that even on 2013, after the Supreme Court led by Judge Willy Mutunga threw away a petition, the Honorable Raila Odinga began immediately to poke holes on the legitimacy and the ruling of that court. It's only 2017 that was ruled in his favor. And after that, he began addressing issues of IEBC. It is the same script that you're seeing. In 2017, you remember, IEBC cannot do a repeat of elections. And this was coming from opposition, led by Raila Odinga by that time, before the handshake. That IEBC, if the Supreme Court had ordered for repeat election in 2017, Wafula Chebukati was not going to do that, elections. It was sustained onslaught on IEBC. Same to 2022. So I think that, one, the reason as to why I tell you it's the beginning of a political phase is that we are seeing, after elections, all the political big players, and you've mentioned the two big wigs, any decision, anything they do is to rally together, the political wings together. You see, our president, and sometimes I always want us to be fair to the president, because I want our assertions always to be very fair, that far from being the president of the Republic of Kenya, he's a political leader.
Yes.
He's a politician. And by ascending to the office, he ascended politically. And sustaining that office requires him to be politically wit, to deploy some political wit. So for him is to galvanize his strongholds and to make sure that as much as possible for him to govern, he must have a political goodwill, both at the parliament and all the institutions. Raila Odinga the same. But caution must be thrown, again, that like Wakili has mentioned, any pronouncement we make, we must be making sure that we don't mislead the public.
Okay. Dr. The president knows this game pretty well. The president has worked with Raila Odinga before, they have been in ODM, so they understand one another's. It's like a game of chess. So the president knows the next move that Raila is going to make.
I think, Oloo, it is so unfortunate that we are discussing an issue that is supposed to be behind us. We are discussing about an election that was won, that there were a lot of the issues to do with court proceedings, and finally the verdict is what we saw, all of us as Kenyans. And when the Asimio pronounced that there are new evidence that they have received, and the evidence that they have is that His Excellency, Right Honorable Raila Odinga won in Mount Kenya. He also won in Wasingishu. He won in Taraganithi. He won in Meru. When you look at those things, Oloo, it will make you think like we are all going mad in this country, that we don't respect the numbers. Like when you talk about Wasingishu, the home ground of His Excellency the President, would you imagine in your rightful senses that somebody else may have actually won in the current politics? And then again, Bwana Oloo, if you read the minds of the speakers of that meeting, look at Kalonzo. Kalonzo was somehow very soft-spoken. He was somehow neutral.
But that has been Honorable Kalonzo.
Listen. He was pronouncing peace. He was not as uttering fire like the way Karua, the way Right Honorable Raila Odinga did. The two have a mission. But you see, there is a fear with the senior counsel, Kalonzo Musyoka. He is looking at the sanctity of the country. He's looking at the peace of the country. Because when you talk about that, a meeting like yesterday, I'm told that, I have my daughter who was passing by, so pinned me to a rope of their phones. So, what we are seeing, Oloo, is something that should not be there in the first place. The new evidence, when Right Honorable Raila pronounced that he had the visitors in his place and that he will show, I'm not talking about the whistleblower now. I'm talking about Right Honorable Raila Odinga, who pronounced that these visitors, called Chebukati and the rest, came to his home. Yet he was standing before the court the other time. They were called to provide all the evidence. Where were all these evidence when that time was provided? I mean, you read mischief in all these things, and rightly said. And you've heard Mheshimiwa Kachwang saying, if Raila has been summoned to the DCIO, and then he said, by the time when we'll be going to Gigiri, all of us shall be there. I mean, you people, don't you think we shall go there? Accompanying him, he will not be alone. Now, look at that, Oloo. I mean, we are seeing a recipe of chaos. We are seeing a country being driven to a state of anarchy. We are seeing people who are being driven to cause chaos, to cause mayhem in a peaceful country like this one, after a very successful election. My friend, where are we heading?
No.
Where are we?
No. Victor, sorry for.
No, go ahead.
Dr. I mean, you know, heightening tension for nothing. Listen, there was a call for a gathering at Kamkunji. And this is why we need to be very honest about the state of the Republic right now. That, just like I've said, every political player is galvanizing. And people are calling together their troops. In past election and post-election, there's a beginning of another election phase. You know, and it's not unfortunate, Dr. It's normal in any democracies. Okay, in the US it's happening. I mean, we just have, you see how even there was a lot of advocacy and, you know, and rallying towards having a speaker in the National Assembly. It was a political phase. Everywhere is political phase. So what I'm saying is that there is a political sphere, I mean, you know, narrative that is going on in this country that, you know, after elections, you know, IBC should not be questioned and all these things. I mean, we must have an opposition that is constructive, okay? We cannot condemn an opposition that is trying to hold the government accountable. Yes. That is what I'm saying. I far from the pronouncement and crazy pronouncement that have been made, that personally I really do not agree with some of the pronouncement. For example, we cannot have a rally that calls people to violence. That we cannot accept as a republic right now.
I have a question. I'm being told to ask Dr. You're a farmer. Have you ever lost during any harvesting season, planting season, have you ever lost? You invested heavily in your farming and then nature happened?
In agriculture, Oloo.
No, have you ever?
It is an uncertain kind of sector. But I have lost.
Thank you.
Yes.
Did you stop talking about it immediately? I said, okay, that was it.
No, let me tell you.
No, did you stop talking about it?
When we talk about, I never stop talking.
Thank you.
Especially, if you are talking about that.
So, my director is asking me to ask you this question.
Let me tell you, Oloo.
What is so wrong about politicians now opening the political chapters? Well, the legal beat is over.
That's what I'm saying.
Let me ask you, Oloo. Is this the right time when Kenyans are facing natural calamities like the drought, that we come up with multiples of political rallies? I mean, can we provide a solution to 4.2 million Kenyans who are starving to death?
No,
can we come up with minds that will culminate in securing our country? I mean, the food security. Can we talk about that one?
You see why?
24/7.
You see why we are here, Dr. Why we are here is by the fact that we have not been questioning enough. If we do not question enough the government that is in the office, we are not able to tackle the issues that Dr. is talking about. And this is what I am saying. We cannot, even in the backdrop of issues of climate change, advocate talked about here, we have a government, a sitting government, that must be expedient enough to deal with those issues. And that's why I'm saying that there must be an opposition, not only in rallies. Victor, I keep on mentioning that we must have a structured opposition that must question the delivery of government in all sectors, including what Dr. is talking about. If we could, and I wish that yesterday the opposition party, and I think they even mentioned, that look at how probably the drought is ravaging this country. Do we have a measure? But even as they question, this is where I draw the line. Even as they question, we must have a constructive opposition that give a constructive alternative to the sitting government.
Wakile, do we have the right time to oppose the government?
We have every opportunity to oppose the government.
Yes.
And actually what I disagree mostly with what is happening with the opposition today is the fact that they are looking back to 2022 election on things which are likely not to change. Nothing of that sort is going to change. There's no way the government is going to change. What will happen is that, and that's what I'm calling irrelevance, what will happen is they are trying to seek a seat at the table. That's what they're trying to ask for. And that has always happened in 2007, in 2013, in 2017. They've always sought for a seat at the table. But that's not the right way to actually deal with opposition. The best way they could be dealing with these issues, and I agree with my colleague on my right, is that they should be able to raise prominent issues such as drought, such as the cost of living, such as employment of the young people. We should be able to actually question and say, you promised to actually do this. In your manifesto, you promised that within 100 days, you are going to do it. And now, maybe from our end, we are forming a shadow cabinet. Let Raila Odinga name a shadow cabinet that each CS is going to question and actually counter every other CS that we have in government today. That's the kind of politics that we need in this country, that we are able to actually question each and everything that is happening by having an organized opposition. We don't see any organization of a sort. And someone was actually asking, where are some of these leaders of the opposition, such as Honorable Joho? Where are other politicians who are there, like Senator Orengo, now Governor Orengo? Why are they not part of this movement that we are actually seeing it today? It's because there's no organization in this kind of movement that we allied that is happening. What we need to see is we need to have a proper check and balances, which will only happen if we have the right leaders, the right opposition, a proper movement being formed, not the kind that shows up at Kamukunji and just says that 2022 election was stolen. We need to talk about the future. We need to talk about tomorrow. What are we going to do? I hear the cost of electricity is going to double up this next month, February. What are they saying about it? What solutions are they going to give to the Kenyans or to even the cabinet secretary for energy?
But that now the owners of the sitting government right now to give a solution to that one. Opposition might just do their bit, but the buck stops with the president at the end of the day, of which we can excuse it because he's still forming his government. But Daniel, what we are likely to see at the end of the day is, you talked about structured kind of opposition, of which, what is structured in your way? Even you, Wakili, talk about structured opposition.
Yes. Right now, Oloo, I think we have been grumbling, and I'm coming to your question, just building up that one of the problems that led us to where we are is that, and I said it in the panel last week, that wherever an opposition is mentioned in this country, it is synonymous to individual. It is synonymous to some names. Whenever we talked about who is in opposition, even a little child will tell you the next name will be mentioned is who. Okay? But here we are. Sometimes I think we do a lot of disfavor to our political and governance structure in this republic. That we must have not only something called opposition, but we have sometimes you have minority and majority that question the processes. Okay? However much we hate to mention that there were proposals that were made in the document that was thrown out of the court that spells out what the opposition should do, that opposition should be part of what constitution is in this republic, that the government do not have a free hand in some of this proposal, in that besides the opposition picketing and exercising their democratic right to hold a public rally, okay, peacefully, and protest peacefully and demonstrate their frustration in a democratic way, we must have also an opposition or similar minority questioning in the seat of power. In the seat of power that we are mentioning, the parliament, for example, bicameral parliament that we have, we must have the minority having their say, and sometimes even calling the executive to question.
Right.
Because one of the things we do not, and I agree with the proposal that was made by the president, that we must have people being questioned in the government. Because sometimes the committees that are formations in the parliament do not have a judicial power enough, because sometimes they are quasi-judicial. What they have is to hold these people, call them into a hearing, but they just make a proposal to be expedited. We have committees in both houses that hold these people accountable. How we wish that we have, in the parliaments that we have before.
Right.
People, for example, cabinet secretaries, being summoned, being asked, that the government do not have a free hand. The opposition must peacefully, demonstrate even in the parliaments, even in the, in protest, even in Kamkunjis, even in the county governments.
Yes.
Okay. If you ask me as structured opposition, that would be my take on.
But then, Dr. just hold to that. Dr. The president talked about that, and probably, Director, you'll have to play for me that clip where the president was in Narok yesterday. The president has been talking about handshake. Raila talked about it last weekend that he's not interested in handshake. What is happening? Is the president looking for a handshake, but first of all denying that he doesn't want it? Is Raila looking for a handshake, but at the same time denying that he doesn't want it?
I think, although it is historically known of all the political line of Right Honorable Raila Odinga, that all of his politics have ended up in coalitions or some handshake, cooperation, including wakati wa KANU. And then you talk about handshake wakati wa Uhuru. I mean, it just emanated. The way things are unraveling now, it just came like that. And of course, it is in everybody's mind that maybe Right Honorable Raila is eyeing for a handshake. But that is not a real issue of our law. What I'm looking for, what I'm looking at it now, law, is not about so much about this kind of triggering. What I'm seeing is the outcome of what we are doing now. Our economy is so delicate. Any kind of the scenarios that we are witnessing today will go down with millions of money that we are losing as a country. I mean, and then number two, when our leadership calls people that you should not pay taxes. I mean, no taxes without representation. Just a replica of the American whatever, the tea whatever. And this is something that it will hurt everybody. We are talking about high soaring prices in most of the essential commodities, yet we are telling people not to pay taxes. How can you run the economy, my friend? How can you run the country without money? I mean, it is like you've planned to destroy the very foundation of our economy. And in this case, although I think our politicians must tone down. Whether there will be a handshake or no handshake or law, I'm not bothered about that. What I'm bothered about is what will be what is all these kind of things will culminate in. It will culminate in destroying our economy. Means that many of our people, those who are already jobless, will live in those who are already, with futures that we have, it will just go down. So what I'm really for, Oloo, it is not, I'm not talking about handshake or no handshake. Whether they shake or they don't shake, it doesn't matter so much to me. I mean, we are all Kenyans. What I'm really bothered of is the cause of what is happening now. What is unfolding now is what is my concern. I'm an economist by profession. Yes. I know the outcome of all these things.
Doctor, you seem to be personal about it. Your opinion seems to be so personal about the whole handshake. But politically speaking, okay, Director, just play that bit where the president was in Narok yesterday. Let's take a listen. All right, we will get into that briefly. I'm still back to you, Dr.
No, you are giving him
no. Allow me just to get back to him.
He's prosecuting some of these things,
I'm right. You are out of order.
No, Wakil and I are also part of this. Rotich,
no. Because I have something to ask you.
This is what the opposition is doing.
Sorry?
Yes, the opposition is not allowing the government to continue running their affairs, yet they're in office, and that's what you're doing to us right now.
Exactly.
Yes, allow us to also express our views.
No. It should be. It should be. It should be.
I've given you enough time, even more than him.
It should be mentioned.
If anything, I've given you time. Okay, fine.
Don't waste my time.
It should be mentioned. It should be mentioned.
Donate your 1 minute to Orogo. Orogo, go ahead.
Get it clear. There is semblance that there is going to be a handshake. It is imminent. And I want to tell you why.
But they have been denying all through.
I want to tell you why. Man, the laws of power is to conceal your intention, is to oppose exactly what you want.
Yes.
If you read the laws of power, that's what you see. All these political players are playing it very nicely. And I will tell you why. The government, and through a proposal that was made by the President of the Republic, to have an opposition. His own proposal, and he proposed it, send it to both Parliament, both National Assembly and the Senate. And I like what the President of the Republic said. That it's quite important for us as a republic to think about having a structured opposition in this country. Because this is one thing that has led us to where we are. And I agree with the President. President would want to be held to account. And he's saying that through my proposal, I think Wakili, you saw that amendment that he brought, a proposal that he brought to the houses, pleading with both houses to expedite this matter. As to how that will be taken, because Wakili will tell us, but what I know is that his proposal, some of it to alter even the National Assembly, must pass through a referendum. It is not the parliament that can do. And this is why these people, and I think the two big boys that you are mentioning, that even as much as there is denial, I see a possibilities of coming towards an agreement that is coming through.
Before I come to you, Wakili, let's take a listen to what happened yesterday in Narok.
Wawezi kutupeleka katika priorities zao ya vyeo yao, ya biashara zao, ya mambo ya familia zao, ya mambo ya binafsi yao. We will not accept, and we are not going that direction.
Akae huko afanye kazi ya oversight, atukosoe pahali atuende vizuri, lakini mambo ya handshake, rais, usikubali.
Akae huko afanye mambo yake. There is this bit of second handshake based on what the two gentlemen have said, the president and the deputy. Your take on that?
First of all, I'm disappointed by the Kenya Kwanza government.
Yes.
Because I feel that they're spending so much time responding and actually focusing on politics. We expected them to actually turn around this country, and this would have happened. It's actually better off if they do it without even engaging the opposition. If they focused on their work and implemented what they need to implement, that would actually be better. On the issue of the handshake, this is what we've seen: 2007, 2013, 2022. Now we are here. I don't think that is going to happen, but as Daniel is saying and has mentioned before, sometimes you need to not express what you want, and we may not even understand that or even know that maybe the government of the day, because if someone can explain to me who is financing the Kamukunji rallies and the opposition to be able to turn out in these big numbers, because that government of the day has decided to actually support and invest in the opposition to make sure that we have this agenda running, we have this narrative running every single day, that to some extent the conversation on what was introduced in the BBI takes place, and we find ourselves actually doing it. No, we have been there before, and Honorable Raila Odinga was in the previous conversation that introduced the BBI. So he has a team, he has a legal team, he has a legal team of economists, he has a legal team of very smart people behind him. What if these individuals have sat and decided that they are going to approach the president, and the president who had proposed to introduce a position of a head of opposition to have an office? What if the president himself and Kenya Kwanza government has decided to invest in the opposition to introduce a referendum that is going to introduce changes in the constitution?
To whose advantage?
To the advantages of these two parties, because one, the positions will be created, one for the current sitting government.
Yes.
They are going to introduce positions which will allow them to reward some of their very supporters that actually got them into powers.
Right.
Number two, the opposition will get, I don't think they're jobless, and you don't want to answer me and tell me how do they make a living. So they would also benefit if the government was able to change the constitution to create some positions, to create some laws that allow them to actually have powers and have outriders and have vehicles and have a pension, a bigger pension for a longer period of time. So the two of them might have been in a sitting whereby they agreed and decided to actually have
this is a question I'm going to pose to all of you. The issue of structured kind of opposition, it has never happened, probably in 2017. Nobody talked about structured set of opposition. Why now? That now that narrative is now being pushed to Parliament, amendments to be made, and that office to be constitutionally put. Structured, it has never been there before.
quickly. We've seen it before, how the opposition has not allowed the government of the day to work in peace.
Yes.
We keep questioning and we keep harassing them, and you cannot fail to respond to some of these issues. And so by creating an office, which was previously there before, the 2010 constitution, that allows the government of the day to actually have a structure that limits what can be done, what can be said, how they can interact. And so that would allow some peace and allow the government of the day to run its affairs without much noise out there. And also, you see, you are not certain that you're in power for life, and you might be in the opposition in the next 10 years or 20 years. So you want to actually also cover for yourself, cover the basis that in case come 2027 and you're not in power, that you also enjoy some of these benefits that come with having an opposition office.
Daniel.
There have been fractured opposition for some time. And one of the disadvantage of opposition politics is that if it is fractured, it's not able to deliver. The reason as to why we need a structured opposition is that there must be an opposition that can even, talk to the government as well. You see, and I agree with what Wakili has been talking about. If that's what I said even before. If you mention the word opposition right now, it's synonymous to individuals. But once you structure the office of the opposition, you put it as an office. And everyone can mention it, and everyone can occupy it. Like you say that you're not sure of where you will be. Secondly, look at the proposals that were made through the BBI. That, the elections where the winner have it all, has been working against us as a republic. Where you have someone with almost, over 5 million votes, and once he lost, he's thrown into political oblivion. The only thing that he can do is to disrupt the functions of the government by holding, protest here and there and doing all these things. And that's what I'm saying. I am looking at this in regards to anyone who can occupy that position right now. I'm not talking about certain individuals right now. I'm talking, tomorrow I can be there, but the government, if I lose opposition, if I lose to be in government, then I disrupt the government. But look, because I have resources at my disposal. I have a party at my disposal. I have a coalition at my disposal. I have the community, both local and international community, backing me up. How disruptive I can be if I'm the leader of opposition. I am not structured to be in the parliament. I'm just somewhere outside the board. So that's why I think it's important. And the president, in his wisdom, thought it is important for us right now to talk about, the structured opposition that is able. The only thing that is also advantageous is that the government, the republic, the citizens can equally hold the opposition to account. You see, this is something that we've been missing. If we have it structured and there is an official office of the opposition leader, Kenyans can critically question, poke holes into the office of the opposition leader without poking questions to the individuals. Because right now we can just point, we are not even sure who is in the opposition or who is not. The opposition also can be equally expanded. Civil society, society. These are part of the constructive opposition that is there. The moment you question and you speak in contrary of the government, by default, you're in opposition. That is not structured. So I think it's important for us to
there is this bit of the president saying that I'm not going to accept handshake. Dr. As you answer that question, what if it doesn't happen? Who will take credit at the end of the day? The president say, I told you, hakutakuwa na handshake, umeona, after 5 years. That will be on the campaign, one of the campaign pointers. If it happens, Raila Odinga will say, I pushed him to that handshake. So we are in a straitjacket as we speak.
You know very well, Oloo, that Right Honorable Raila Odinga has been in politics for a long, long time, more than even Ruto. And even you talk about Martha Karua, who is actually deputizing him. This is an old age kind of politicians whom I'm seeing they have a whole of free time to do what they are doing. Why I'm saying so, Oloo, is because when you look at the Kamukunji, Oloo, how many members of parliament in the current parliament who are in the opposition who are there? I think the behind the scene ick or anger among the opposition is because the current government has actually poached or woo in some of their strong supporters. And that may be even the reason why they're saying we want to do rallies all over the country, because we want to tell the people whom you elected to represent you in Azimio have gone to government. And that is something that I'm seeing. It is actually the behind-the-scene anger among the Azimio, because they are saying that the government has actually helped in destroying the opposition, that we are now purporting that we need a structured opposition. A structured opposition actually failed in day one when the current leadership could not adhere to their manifestos according to their parties. If, say, Azimio had one agenda, the members of parliament who are elected under Azimio must be propagating the agenda of the Azimio. But look at what's happening now. Most of them are already in the government. And if they are in the government, what are they doing? So when you look at the opposition, like my brother Orogo is saying, that we are now looking at opposition as an individual and not as a party or some kind of organization. So when we associate opposition with an individual, it loses its meaning.
Yeah.
So I think it is a high time.
That is why that talk of having that office of the official opposition, whoever will be put there, does not matter. But the fact that the office bearer is now the big issue.
In fact, if I am in Azimio Oloo, I must be identified everywhere, anywhere that I'm in Azimio. If I'm in Kenya Kwanza, I should be identified anywhere, everywhere as somebody from Kenya. But look at what is happening now, Oloo. You find the opposition, those who are in Azimio, who are now in Mount Kenya,
yes,
are now back to the government. Go to Western, and those who are in Azimio talking loudly, they are now silent. That means they are with the government. And when you look at the Right Honorable Raila talking, he's all alone.
Okay, it's all alone. I don't want to be alone on this set at this particular point. Politics will always revolve. Gentlemen, I must appreciate that anytime we have a discussion on this show, we'll always have something new to talk to Kenyans. We learn every day. Amen. We learn every day. Amen. And from the response I'm getting on social media, Kenyans really appreciate your brains. Amen. All right, thank you so much. All right, Dr. Joseph Rotich, there, an economist, but I usually say, I don't know why he left economy. He's much.
This guy is a politician.
I don't know why. I mean, talk about
by default, not by plan.
Much appreciated. All right, governance expert and political analyst Daniel Orogo, a gentleman who's always here with us on the show, and Wakili Eliud Ngugi, also with us on the show every single morning. Okay. Let's take a break. And coming up shortly, the president is in Mombasa, and we'll be taking that link for us to understand what the president is talking about, much as it's all about development, and we'll be taking that link as soon as we have it. But right about now, let's take a break. GMK continues after this. Ramaguko has a very interesting topic. Stick around for that. Good morning.